What up, PE Ninjas? My name is OJ, and welcome to the PE Nintendo Switch news video. And I've got to tell you guys something. Yo, this leak is looking more and more likely the more I dig into it. There is a bunch of great information, but today we're going to talk a little bit about some of that stuff that I found inside the leak, which I think hasn't been talked about as much. In addition to that, we've got a bunch of great stories for you guys, so let's go ahead and jump right into the news. So friends on the Nintendo Switch, according to the leak here, we are going to get pretty much a triple amount of friends on the Nintendo Switch. So the limit for the Wii U was 100. Apparently for the Nintendo Switch, that's going to be bumped up to 300. And to use this friend feature, you must link a Nintendo account. So you can't use it without linking a Nintendo account. And there will be a favorites feature, and friends to set favorites are displayed preferentially in the friends list. So that seems really interesting that Nintendo has only increased it by 200. I thought that they might do a little bit more than that, but still, 300 is a lot better than 100. And at the point where you're at 300, then you probably need to take off some people. I have never reached anywhere near 300 on PS4 and Xbox One. However, with the Nintendo Switch, I know I'm going to be running game tournaments, and a lot of you dudes are going to want to join in. So I wish I had a little bit more capacity in there. But hey, it is what it is. I think most people will be happy with 300. That is definitely an improvement from 100. All right, and moving on to the next story here. So Nicholas is teasing a physical release of Cave Story on the Nintendo Switch. Here's what they had to say on Twitter. Quote, "What if Cave Story had a physical release on #Nintendo Switch? Question mark. Yo, that would be really cool. We did learn from the leak, okay, the rumored leak, that there will be 1 gigabyte, 2 gigabytes, 4 gigabytes, 8 gigabytes, 16 gigabytes, and 32 gigabyte cards on the Nintendo Switch. So I think developers can pretty much put out a 1 gigabyte card for a pretty good price. I don't think 1 gigabyte on a card is really going to be too bad. I don't really know if there's going to be variance in prices throughout them or how big the price gap is going to be, but I would guess if you're an indie developer and you're actually teasing releasing physical games on the Nintendo Switch on cards, be it that, I do think that that's definitely a good indication that the Nintendo Switch game cards aren't expensive, especially for indie developers if they want to do physical releases, because they are teasing this one. The Binding of Isaac Afterbirth Plus is also getting the physical release as well. So to me, that shows that the game card prices are probably affordable, and that's definitely good for developers who are going to be using bigger cards as well, because if the smaller ones are definitely cheaper, then the bigger ones probably aren't too much more expensive depending on what type of game that you got and the deal that you worked out with Nintendo. I would actually be pretty hyped for a physical version of Cave Story just because I haven't played the game much, but I've heard so many good things about it, so I definitely want to pick it up. And with the Nintendo Switch, I like game cards, guys. I don't really buy a lot of games digital, and any game that I bought digital so far, like on the Nintendo 3DS, I'm like, man, I need to go buy a physical version just because I like to have the game card. I like to have it with me, and I don't mind using a carrying case and putting all my cards in there. Reminds me of when I was a kid and it was old school with my Game Boy, man, and my Game Boy Advance. So I'm definitely going to be doing that, and if they have a physical version of Cave Story, I'm definitely going to pick that up because Cave Story is more of my type of game than the Binding of Isaac Afterbirth Plus. So hopefully they do it, and those box arts do look amazing. So I love those box arts, need to have those. Moving on to the next story here. So it looks like GameFly will be offering Nintendo Switch games for rental. So there was an article coming out saying that GameFly wasn't sure if they're going to be able to offer rentals or not because it was way too early in the process, so I didn't even feel like talking about it because it was just still way too early. But at this point, they've pretty much confirmed now that we are in February, game rentals will be at GameFly. Their database should be updating with Nintendo Switch games sometime tomorrow, so that's good news for those who like to rent their games and try out some of the other titles. Maybe you try something out, you like it, and you pick it up. Either way, it's still a good thing for Nintendo and Nintendo Switch and consumers overall. Alright, and if you're looking for a Nintendo Switch and you're going to be in the New York area, well, Nintendo has some good news for you. It looks like the Nintendo New York store should have ample supply of Nintendo Switch stock for launch walk-ins. The following info comes from the ambassador at the Nintendo New York store. The store should be sitting pretty with in-store Switch stock. They should have a comfortable amount ready for walk-ins on day of the launch. So I will say this, if you're going to be there, make sure you get there early. Don't be like that dude that's out there like a month ahead of time. Don't be like him, although he seems like a cool dude, but don't be like him. go out there early, go out there, get your 3DS, all that, you know, and play, talk with the people there, and just get in line, because yes, they're going to have stock, but they didn't say how much. They didn't say 300, 400, 500. What if they feel, in their opinion, that 250 is a good amount? Because if you sell 250 systems, that's a good amount for a store on day one. Heck, that's a lot of systems. When I first walked in to buy a Wii, there was only 14 of them. So if the Nintendo New York says, oh, we're going to have 250, if that's what they're thinking, that's a good amount. But they don't say that to anyone. So make sure you get there early so you can stay in line if you really want a Nintendo Switch. Make sure you take work off. Don't go to work on Friday. Do not go to work on Friday, because you're going to be late, or you're just not going to show up because you're going to sleep in, because you're going to be up all night playing. So take work off, call in, take work off, make sure you get it off just like I am, so I can stream everything for you guys and just have an awesome pretty much night and evening, and then probably fall asleep on camera. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, really excited for the launch, and yo, it's getting closer and closer. It's going to be here next week. All right, and lastly, I want to talk about the Nintendo Switch and one of the things that was said in the leak that came out, and that is that this Nintendo Switch is really focused on playing games first and foremost at the beginning. I'll talk about why I think Nintendo is kind of taking this route compared to the Wii U, and we're going to get into this comment here that was in that leak. So, quote, "We consider games to be the core function of a game system." Really? That's interesting. "We want to build a system that provides game applications with as many system resources like memory and CPU as possible. The features provided are specialized to support gameplay." So one of the big things that came out from the leak was that the RAM, there's going to be 4 gigabytes of it, LDDR4 if I'm pretty sure, so pretty fast shared RAM that they're going to have, and 3.25 of the gigabytes of RAM can be used for gaming. And the OS is only less than a gig, which is really good. And compared to the Wii U, which ran a bunch of stuff in the background and was just kind of bloated on the OS and took forever to load, that used 1 gigabyte of RAM. So I think that Nintendo really just said, look, we had a bunch of stuff on the Nintendo Wii U. We had a bunch of third-party games. We had a bunch of apps. We had a bunch of Netflix and Hulu and Google, where you could look around with a gamepad. We had all of that. Web browsers, everything that you can imagine. And as soon as that launch period dried out, not even all Nintendo fans rushed out to go buy it. Just a select number. And a lot of Nintendo fans were just like, don't feel like buying it. Not enough. So I do think when it comes to developing games and what Nintendo has talked about as far as the core function of a gaming system, that was the biggest weakness of the Wii U. Whether you want to talk about marketing, you want to talk about library, one of the biggest weaknesses, or seriously, like when it comes from a game development standpoint, was the system itself. How does it use its RAM? What type of RAM does it have? How does that RAM function in the games? Just all sorts of stuff that has to do with the actual development. The CPU, GPU, support of engines, that was the biggest problem, okay? And Nintendo has really tried to rectify the situation in a way that would be comfortable for them to combine their portable and their home console. They had to do it in that way. Otherwise, once again, you're going to fall into a Wii U and Nintendo 3D situation where you're developing 2 different types of software for 2 different systems, if one of them is vastly more powerful than the other system. I do feel that Nintendo's going to slowly add those in the future, but the biggest thing for developers at the beginning, and pretty much I'd probably say within the first 5 to 6 months, is make it as easy as possible for them to access the resources in order to play games, and don't let that be taken up or hogged by anything else while they're trying to get their games out in that first year. But like I said, I do feel the Nintendo Switch, as far as what it can do, the type of graphics and the type of chip and CPU and everything that it's capable of, it can definitely do more. But I do feel that at the beginning here, it's good to see just people focusing on games, because that's what's really going to sell your system. It's going to be the games that come out, and it's going to be how those games are used on your device. So cool stuff there. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comment section below. Alright guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Go ahead and hit that like button if you did like it. Let me know you guys want more content like this going forward in the future. And subscribe to PlayerEssence for the latest news, reviews, discussions, and more. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you guys for the next video. Peace.